So in today's session, we're going to be looking at Linux and why we think Linux is some kind of an operating system of choice for DevOps. So in last week's session, we looked at the Linux operating system, and we also looked at certain structures about the Linux operating system, the fact that it has a file system structure and everything inside the Linux operating system is being seen as a file. And in this session, we're going to be starting with the command line. Now, the reason why command line is important is because it's a very powerful tool for not just people who are in DevOps, but also for people who are in stuff like system admins and also people who are server administrators. So anyone who is going to be working on a Linux platform will somehow get used to the Linux CLI. It's also good for developers. The reason being that most of the systems that you'll be working on are not going to have any GUI, especially in the real world. Most of them will come with just the CLI, so just like a black screen or something. So you wouldn't have the luxury of a CLI. So yeah, that's why everybody needs to understand or use the CLI. So in this session, we're going to be learning about the basic command line and then also what we call the VI editor. We'll explain what that means and why we need the VI editor. But that's the two things that we'll be covering in this particular session. Now, when we talk about the basic CLI, we just want to know how to easily use the command line interface without any GUI. So assuming there's no GUI for your Linux system, how would you be able to go around it? And that's some of the stuff we're going to be doing. So basically, in order for you to run your command line or in order for you to use the command, you need what we refer to as some kind of a software that helps you to be able to send the instructions to your system. And that software could be a terminal. But behind that terminal, there is some kind of an engine that helps your terminal to be able to interpret the command that you write. And that's what we refer to as the shell. So a shell is just basically a piece of engine behind a terminal that interprets whatever command you write. There are various types of shells that we're going to be seeing, and these shells come in various, say, versions. One typical example of the shell that was very, very popular was the Bourne shell. So the Bourne shell was one of these shells that came up earlier on in those days, and there's also the C shell, and there is the Z shell, and we have the one that we will be using, which is referred to as the born again shell, in other words known as the bash shell. So the bash shell is more like the shell that we're going to be using for this lesson.